So the plan this morning is we're going to hear from Nick Turner at Intro in Carlisle, based in Carlisle. Nick, I think, lives in Brampton, and he's got a lovely Dan Ibbotson painting behind him to be artistic for and creative for us this morning. Nick and Kate as well are going to talk about Curated Cumbria, which is a brand new initiative to help spread the word about what is going on in this county creatively and artistically. Um, it's a bit of a what's on, but it's a lot more than just a what's on. So Nick and Kate are going to tell us about that, and we'll have a look at that as well. Edition 2 has just gone to the press and has been published this week. So if you hear about Curated Cumbria, and I would really encourage you to sign up to it and subscribe to it as well. And then lovely Deanne and Lauren are there in. Are you in Whitehaven? WHC stands for Whitehaven Whitehaven Harbour
Yes,
Commissioners.
Whitehaven Harbour Commissioners. Well done. Yes, we are
Impressive.
indeed.
Well, who's are you in someone's house? There's some images on the wall
No,
there.
we
Where
are
are you?
above. We're above the rum story. So bizarrely, Whitehaven Harbour Commissioner's office is not actually on the harbour. It's in
Okay.
Whitehaven Town Centre itself. It's just above the rum story visitor attraction, if anybody knows it, on Lowther
No,
Street.
well, yep. And they are going to tell us about the Edge, which is a brand new, stunning building built on the harbour side in Whitehaven. Some of you might have seen it if you're in West Cumbria, or if you've seen images online. And Deanne starred in a stunning little promotional film, in fact, that I watched a few weeks ago. So anyway, we're going to find out what the Edge is all about, why it might be of interest to you as an artistic or creative person, and what the plan and ambition for the Edge is. It's always great to see a modern building. It's actually a really beautiful building emerge in Cumbria, and we're going to hear about that as well. We were going to hear from Bob Sutcliffe to talk about the exhibition at Hoker Hall, but Bob's contacted me this morning and he's unavailable this morning. So we might try and do that another time. And then also we're going to hear a little clip of a podcast that I've made, the most recent podcast, episode 33, where I had the privilege of interviewing a lovely chap called Andy Smith, who's the man in charge of Kendal Calling and many, many other festivals across the UK these days. But he started Kendal Calling 20 years ago. And we just thought we'd play a short clip of the day when he didn't realise who Blondie were, that I found out about from him on stage. So we'll hear a little bit of that as well. He did finally find out who Blondie were, and he's got a bit of an excuse as well. So we'll hear a bit of that, and I encourage you, obviously, to give me some subscriptions for the podcast that make me happy and give me a nice weekend. Right, that is the plan for this morning. Is that all right with everybody? Yeah, okay, a few thumbs up. Thanks. It's always nice to have that sort of coming back at me through the screen. Right, well, let's kick off then with Curated Cumbria, which is a lovely thing that's just been born in Cumbria. And I'm going to turn to Nick Turner, who founded and runs Intro PR in Carlisle. And we have Nick, we can pull up the homepage and also a recent edition of Curated Cumbria when you're ready. So over to you. Tell us about where it's come from, what the idea behind it is, and why you're involved in it.
Yeah, so at Intro, we, as a bit of a kind of a side project, we already publish a number of community newsletters that are based for particular areas like Brampton, Carlisle, Wigton, etc. And it's long been a thought that there's a kind of a gap there in arts and culture for people who want to sort of cast their eyes a bit further afield and keep track of all the brilliant things that happen in the county. So we've kind of launched this weekly roundup of what's on news, previews, reviews from around the county. And we've done it on Substack, which means that unlike our other newsletters, it will quickly build up into an archive so people can go back and read articles. So it's only a week old. We've kind of just had 2 editions that have gone out. We currently, I think, every time I look at the subscribers, they've gone up. So I think we're on something like about 195. So hopefully by the end of this, we'll be over 200. And it's really a kind of very much a kind of work in progress in terms of we're open to suggestions for what the content should be, but also suggestions for the kind of format of listings and things like that is something that we've debated many different ways, because obviously You want to keep reminding people about things that are coming up. You want to give people choices about things at the weekend, and really have that kind of mixture of kind of content. So, like in the, I don't know if you want to click on the one of the newsletters that we sent out there, Tom, for that one maybe. So this was the first. This is the second newsletter that's gone out. We're sending out each Wednesday. In that edition, we've got something of Andy Smith from Kendall Calling. We want to start each newsletter with a piece of writing, a bit of insight into the arts and culture scene, and then we've gone on to pull together a kind of round up all the brilliant writers who are heading to Cumbria there. So we've got Robin Ince, Joan Harris, but there's a whole string of people coming to Carlisle and the old fire station the weeks ahead as well. And then we've got a preview of tonight's degree show at the University of Cumbria, and our listings that include everything from the Chesney Hawks, that was announced yesterday for the old fire station in Carlisle, to Ulverston's International Music Festival. So that's basically the idea, and it's only really going to work if people kind of spread the word and see this as a kind of opportunity for Cumbria. I think our biggest kind of challenge will be to push up subscribers. We're doing our best to promote that through our other outlets. We have a Facebook page for it called What's On in Cumbria, and the Lake District that already has 1,000 followers. So we've got a good start, but we need everyone to kind of really get behind it and spread the word. Somebody's just put in a question into the chat there about whether you need a Substack subscription. So not at all. We will. You can subscribe to the newsletter, and you'll receive that newsletter every Wednesday. Or if you see a link on social media to it, you can just follow the link and read it. People might ask why on earth we're kind of doing all this. Part of the reason is because Cumbria needs it. We're all about using our skills at Intro to make Cumbria a better place. We want to kind of do this. We have no intentions of introducing advertising to the site. Like our other newsletters, we're probably once we've got a decent audience, be suggesting that people might contribute towards it, and we would hope some venues would kind of see the benefit to them and might contribute to the ongoing costs. So that's the idea in a nutshell. It's very much a collaboration with the network. So Kate, I don't know if you want to say from your point of view how you're hoping the project will kind of develop and the need for it.
Yeah. Well, one of the main reasons CACN exists is to champion what goes on across the culture sector in Cumbria. So it feels like a complete win-win, really, for us to be part of this and for us to work on this together. So it's not a newsletter that is in any way competing with the newsletter that CACN sends out every week. The newsletter that you all receive on a Wednesday from us is sort of internal. It's for information for people working in whatever capacity across the Cumbrian culture sector, whereas Curated Cumbria is very much public facing for everybody to get the word out about what everybody's doing. And I think the reason we want to get behind it, not least because it feels fundamental to what CACN is all about, is that it is so easy to miss some of the great stuff that's happening across the county. And I would really like to think that the Curated Cumbria is all about the whole ecology right across the county. So it picks up on the tiniest little events, and individual exhibitions and things, as well as the biggest, most high-profile activities and locations. So, because that's what CACN tries to capture, and that is partly why we'll be involved, so that when we find out about something, we can make sure that it goes straight into the Curated Cumbria newsletter. I also would like to think that it really does get in right across the county. So that is where we need your help to send us information about what's going on. And it doesn't lean in any way, particularly from one side of the country to the county to the other. It's a very balanced thing. I think what we would plan to do is integrate it into the CACN newsletter, so you'll be able to sort of skip from one to the other, if you're interested to do that. But it just feels like a really natural fit, and we're very happy to be doing it. So I would really ask everybody to get signed up and share it as far and wide as possible, because that's what will make it fly, and that's what will help to get people through the doors of the events and activities that people are running.
And what's the funnel? What's the mechanism? What's the process, Nick, Kate, for people to submit stuff to get it into Curated Cumbria?
Nick?
We are hoping that people are going to basically bombard us with suggestions and demands for things to be included and thoughts on what the format should be. So we're very much open to that. I would suggest just emailing to me in this kind of initial phase. Shortest route to getting something into the newsletters. My email is nick@weareintro.co.uk. So and as over time, we'll probably develop a more kind of sophisticated way of kind of managing the what's on and kind of developing some kind of more categorized listings and things like that. But very much at the moment, it's a kind of selection and kind of organic growth. And as the audience grows and hopefully the support for it grows, then we'll kind of invest more into that, and the kind of content will get enriched.
Joe's asking, Joe at ArtGene is asking, what's the lead-in time? So is there any specific instruction in that respect?
Well, because it's put together by ex-journalists, we like to see a deadline before we do anything. So basically, it comes out on Wednesday afternoon, and we're working on it on a Tuesday and Wednesday. But we are kind of very much kind of planning ahead now for future editions. So we're kind of thinking all the big things that happen in the county should have a preview in the newsletter. Opening plays should have a review in the newsletter and things like that. So obviously, as we're getting into the summer season, festivals and all the rest of it, that is getting quite, that kind of diary is quite kind of filling up with sort of content ideas.
Yeah.
So if you want to get into listings, you can go right up to the wire for Wednesday lunchtime. If you want to kind of pitch for one of the bigger pieces and say, "Oh, it'd be absolutely brilliant if you did a piece on this," or "Why don't you interview this person?" The few weeks would probably be the best lead-in time.
Does that answer your question, Joe? Yeah, great.
Thumbs up. I'd just say, don't stop sending Amy your information if you're in the habit of doing that. Do both, because we will continue to flag stuff in the CACN newsletter, but the main what's on listing and features about what's going to be happening will be in Curated Cumbria.
Yeah, and if you forget Nick's email address, hello@cacn.co.uk, which is Amy's address, that will get through to Nick and a chap called Mark, who's also helping to put this together as well. Can I ask Kate and Nick, so this is taking some time, capacity, labour to make all this happen. So at the moment, am I right in thinking that CACN and Intro are absorbing that cost, but with a view to possibly finding a sponsor in due course? Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at the model that we have for our other newsletters, basically, if we took Brampton, where I'm sitting now, Brampton newsletter has 1,400 subscribers in a town of 4,000 people. 80% of those open the newsletter every week. And we ask people if they like it to make a donation, and they individuals donate £12 to it because they like it. Not everyone does, but it's enough to kind of cover most of the time that we kind of spend on it. That's essentially the model that we're going to be looking at for Curated Cumbria, and obviously with one eye on the fact that venues and things will be benefiting a lot from the promotion that we're giving them, so they would hope they would give us their support. But we're not intending to go down the advertising model because, as a lot of us know from trying to look at news websites and things like that, advertising kills the experience of trying to read good content. So there might be some sponsored content or something, but not lots of pop-ups and videos playing at you all the time and things like that.
I think we just want to get it off the ground, don't we? And
Yeah.
get it moving and working, and then establish what needs to happen.
Joe.
Hi, Nick. Hi. Nice to hear about this. I wish you all the best with it. I hope it goes well. A few questions. Actually, I'm not sure your challenge will be the subscribers. I think your main challenge will be to keep up the impetus on covering the whole of Cumbria. I think that is a big challenge, especially when one is based at one extremity or the other of geographical space.
Yeah.
Because it is quite challenging, I think, to keep abreast of. Like, I would struggle to keep abreast of what's happening in Carlisle. I'm sure you will do the same for Barrow. I think that will need some work. I do find I'm very loyal to CACN, as Kate and Tom know, but even CACN can sometimes struggle to be truly Cumbria. I find that any organisation with Cumbria in the title doesn't always pull it off. However hard we all try. I think it's a great endeavour, but I think that perhaps needs some continued kind of thought and effort. And I do acknowledge that you've got the Dock Museum in the in an early newsletter, so that's great to see, and we all look forward to the second day. I've got a question about Substack. I just wondered, it's a hive mind question really, rather than one for you necessarily, but I'm becoming increasingly interested in the kind of carbon footprint of our digital work. And Substack's based in the States, so every time we sending data, we're sending it across the Atlantic. I just wondered whether there is a European equivalent, or whether any other platform is considered just on the carbon side of things.
Well, just to respond to those points. So, firstly, on the making sure we're county-wide, that is a challenge, and very much I see this as like a collaboration. So, if anyone feels that we're not doing that, feel free to kind of raise that and give that feedback. On the second point, it's an experiment. We're at Substack at the minute. The reason we went down that route is because we thought we needed the archive. And if you have a review of, I don't know, Theatre by the Lake or something like that, you'll be able to access and link to that review the whole time. Whereas previous things that we've used, like MailerLite and MailChimp, basically the newsletter's gone. And unless you want to search your emails, you're not going to be able to find it. So I take your point about that. I mean, there's lots of ways in which the carbon footprint of what we do, just replying to emails to say okay creates carbon footprint, doesn't it? So something we all need to think about.
Thank you, Joe. Also £12, just to answer Joe's question in chat, £12 a year, question mark?
Yes.
You say, so basically £1 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Nick. And Joe, please, absolutely, as Nick has sort of indicated, shove stuff our way that is in your part of the world. I really try and make the podcast and the Friday calls as county-wide as I possibly can. we don't live in a perfect world, but I think if you looked back over the 250 Friday calls that we've done, which I do roughly from time to time, it's not a bad spread of the county, and also the art forms as well, and things like gender balance and all that sort of stuff. So, but hold our feet to the fire, Joe, if you think it's, and I think you could argue that, again, this is all very new, getting off the ground. The second edition is quite Carlisle centric. Not through any plan, it's just the way it's turned out, because we're scrabbling around, just wanted to get out. But the first one was a really good example of getting around the county, I think. So judge us in 20 editions time to see whether we're Carlisle centric or not. Jonathan's got his hand up very politely.
Yes, just to let you know, I've clicked, and I'm
Did it
now
work?
subscribing. It was very easy. I hope the link will work. I'm sure it will. I do like your work. I have to confess a strange enthusiasm for Wigton, and I look in at your Wigton newsletter on occasions, which is good.
Yeah.
Just to echo Joe's point about comprehensive coverage, we do sometimes feel that we're a little neglected down in the south. Certainly here in Millom, we sort of fall off the bottom of most people's maps. And I couldn't help but notice, probably unfair, having just glanced at the one newsletter, that of course, naturally, you're somewhat Carlisle centric. However, there's an opportunity. We have an item from one of the prominent former modern artists in the Carlisle area, Catherine Boyce, who has created a magnificent window in Millom dedicated to Norman Nicholson. So in June, I'll send you some details. Her work is going to be reviewed and looking at the references in the window to Nicholson's work, and then a walk out around about Millom to see what he was writing about. That may fit.
Absolutely. It sounds a great idea.
We shall be in touch.
And as Kate says, I think part of the answer is for people to send info through about what's going on in their corner of the world. That will definitely help us. And she's absolutely right. But we've also got ideas for little features, little regular ad hoc features that we'll tell you about in due course once we've actually thought them through properly and had a good old argument about whether they're a good idea or not. So hopefully, anyway, you'll subscribe, give it a chance, and realise how beneficial actually it will be, both for your own work and the things that you're interested in going to see, and the wider community, because I think that's where the network comes into it. We're all in this network because we think there's something to the network, there's something to the creative landscape of Cumbria beyond just the little bit that we do. And this is a really good example, I think, of a collaboration, as Sue has put in chat there, a really good collaboration between people who are thinking like-minded things, people at Intro, people at CACN. We want to spread the word about what's going on. And, as somebody who used to be the news editor at Radio Cumbria many, many years ago, Nick used to work on the Cumberland News and the News and Star. Deanne used to work. Where did you work, Deanne? You were a journalist at the...
Latterly, I was editor at Whitehaven News and Times and Star. That's how I finished. Yeah.
Sue's obviously a journalist. There's lots of people here who are probably embarrassed by the lack of local media coverage of the arts and cultural sector. There's absolutely an opportunity there for us to make something better happen. And if this is our stab at doing it at the moment. I think. I'm not trying to speak out of turn or represent people's views that differ from what I think, but that's the feeling I get about this. Is a real opportunity for us to make something better available for the good people of Cumbria and beyond, obviously, as well. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Kate. Was there anything else you two wanted to say before we move on? All right.
No, just a thankful for everyone's kind of input, and I hope the conversation can continue.
Great. So do look out for it on the socials, because we're having a go at trying to promote it at the moment. And if you can help spread the word, that will be fantastic as well. And all feedback to Nick, to Kate, to me, absolutely embraced, welcomed, and we'll try and make it better. All right. Well, that was interesting. Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you, Kate. And Curated Cumbria is where we're at. But we're now going to move to West Cumbria, to above the rum story, where Deanne and Lauren are parked up. Deanne, I know a little bit already from various meetings and things. We usually bump into each other at the theatre or something like that. Yep. Lauren, would you like to? But Deanne, do you want to just introduce yourself? And Lauren, would you like to introduce yourself? And then we'll get your slides up, and you can tell us about why we should be absolutely looking at visiting the Edge.
Yep. Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Deanne Shellcross, and I'm CEO of Whitehaven Harbour Commissioners. And we also own the Rum Story. We manage, maintain, and conserve our wonderful Georgian harbour in Whitehaven.
And I'm Lauren. I've recently been recruited as Community Activity Coordinator for the Edge in Whitehaven.
Okay. So we're going to talk about the Edge, and Tom's going to share some slides as we twitter away between us. So the Edge predates me. It predates my previous CEO, and it lies with the previous CEO to that, Celia, and the Board of Commissioners at the time. So as you can see, it's a very unusual building on Whitehaven Harbour side. And if you know Whitehaven at all, if you know where the beacon is, it's just up from the beacon at the very, very top end there. So some people refer to it as west, some people refer to it as south. So it's all the way around on the old Wellington Inn car park near the old pub. If you click onto the next slide, please, Tom. And we think it was about 2014, it was a big storm happened and wiped out the then Sea Cadets building. And instead of just going for kind of rebuild and everything else, the commissioner said at the time, right, what do we need? What are we going to put there? This is actually an opportunity. And they talked with the community, they talked with harbour users, they talked with the town, they met with a lot of people, they liaised with external agencies, and out of that was born the idea of this coastal activities centre. It's very, very strange that we're in an amazing coastal community down Cumbria, but there's no real dedicated centre for water sports, for walking, for cycling, for just general activities across the board. So they were really determined to get that, particularly for Whitehaven, a very kind of underserved community, disadvantaged community, which certainly back then was really lacking in investment, big style. So long story short, there's a lot of going backwards and forwards, a lot of ideas, a lot of liaison, and they came up with this design. Well, they didn't. Some random architect who I do not know what they were on at the time, but I genuinely want something of it, came out with this incredible design of the Edge. And it was based on a stone or a pebble that was actually washed up from another storm that one of the team had picked up and looked at it. It was sandstone and it was an unusual shape. And they said, oh, take that away. I wonder if that could be played with a bit. And then somebody whittled it a bit here and there, if you imagine a bit like woodwork. And they came out with this unusual design, and hence the Edge was born. So next slide, please. And over to Lauren.
Yeah, so inside it's incredibly modern. Every time I go in, there's something new that strikes me. So there's changing facilities, there's a drying room and accessible public toilets, which forms the sort of community side of the building. Then you moved into the sort of commercial side of the building, where you've got a cafe, which would be perfect for warming up after a day on the beach or an activity. There's flexible meeting spaces and a mezzanine upstairs. Pictures of it. Yeah.
Yep, sorry, I'm not driving. I'm doing a very bad job of multitasking here, Anne. Sorry, Lauren.
There's a mezzanine area which has the capacity to host workshops or community events. There's also a standout feature of a stage space, which would be perfect for acoustic performances, open mic nights, or community showcases. For those wanting to stay longer, the top 2 floors feature 16 ensuite bedrooms. There's family rooms and accessible rooms as well. All with beautiful harbour views. So that's ideal for walkers, cyclists, residential groups, or anyone doing the coast-to-coast adventure. All of the floors, again, are fully accessible with lifts and a thoughtful design throughout to ensure that everyone, regardless of ability, can enjoy everything that the Edge will have to offer. It's important to note as well that the commercial side is run by Osprey Management Group. So they'll be taking care of the cafe and the rooms and running that business side. Then, that's the stage.
Yeah. So if you jump back to slide 4, Tom, if we can go back to where it's sort of, there we go. It looks very, very much work in progress. So back forward, that's the one. So that was actually taken a few weeks ago. It looks a little bit different now, and you'll see that on another slide coming up. It's currently at the fit out stage. So we got the shell itself around early March. It's been built by Thomas Armstrong, another local organisation. And we are currently working with Osprey and interior design company also from Cumbria called Fidget Design. And it's coming together slowly but surely. It's taken a lot of work, but it's absolutely amazing. And the internals definitely reflect the externals. We were saying things like even the blinds. It's been an absolute nightmare for the people making the blinds because every single window is different. It's all quirky. There are all squiggly windows in the bedrooms, and everything's had to be done individually 16 times over. Including the layouts of the room. So normally interior designers would create a template for a standard room. If you're doing something like a Premier Inn or a Travel Lodge, it's all the same. Pretty much everything goes in exactly the same place. So it's all had to be flexed a little bit. So it's taking time, but hopefully it will be worth it. So on to slide 5. Next slide, please. Thank you. So that's the part of the room with the colour pops. So we've very much got a colour theme throughout the building. But then there's these little pops of colour as well that again continue through in different areas. The top floor itself has a terracotta identity. The middle floor is a teal colour and the bottom floor is more yellow. And that just helps again with people identifying what floors they're on. It's fully accessible across all 3 floors. So we've got a lift to all 3. There's also accessible features built in, accessible toilets, accessible bedrooms. We've got family rooms. We've got a mixture of doubles with a little sofa bed in the corner. So the one that you can see in that top left, you just see the edge of a sofa bed on the side. There are also larger family rooms. And one of them is an accessible family room as well. So hopefully lots of individual needs all catered for. On to next slide. So Lauren, talk a little bit more about the activities and the groups and people that we hope to encourage to use the Edge.
Yes, so at present I'm sort of reaching out to local groups, local charities to see how we can work together. Ideally, we'd like to have a mixture of water sports activities, contacting canoe clubs, paddleboard providers. I'm also reaching out to Calvert Trust and Braithwaite Trust to see if they could have a separate venue with ourselves. Again, because the area and the Edge is accessible, we could work together there. Where else are we?
Just track that. Oh, you've been up to Whitehaven Academy.
Yeah. So working with local schools and colleges. So I've been inviting students to sort of contribute creatively by designing wall art for the bedrooms, planters for the outdoor areas, just so we can sort of foster a sense of ownership and community at the Edge. So yeah.
And then we've also worked with, before Lauren came, we worked with students from the University Technical College so that they helped us design the external sign, which we very much hope will be accepted by planning and go through, and that will be on the outside and backlit. So we're just trying to involve younger people and older people right across the board, really, to build that sense of pride that Lauren referenced. Also, we've got containers, so there's a lot of mod cons in the building. So we've got underfloor heating. There is electrics because there's no real mains gas up that way. So we were a little bit limited on what we had. So there's the electricity in there, that a lot of the electric power as well. But then we're also supported by LPG, and we've also got some solar panels, and they sit on the containers. So we've got repurposed containers on the car park itself, because obviously the designers wouldn't want it sitting on that wonderful building. So the containers are twofold. So they'll host the solar panels, but they'll also provide storage for the building. They'll also provide rentable storage for community groups, and really at an incredibly reasonable rate. This is all meant to be self-sustainable, but it is meant to be for the community as well. So we have to make it accessible. And I know there are lots of groups already locally that are really keen to use that storage just because it's so handy. But we're also working with Twiggy and his art group. Is it Beardy? BD? Tom will probably know better than us. I can't remember what he's called exactly, but he does. He's involved in all sorts of things, and Soundwave and Rosehill and everybody. He's brilliant, and they're looking to do a street art design, a streetscapes design on the container. So again, it's working with younger people and just trying to encourage them to feel ownership of it. We have a real problem with vandalism on the harbour and, well, in town in general, and anything we can do to get those younger people involved and then maybe get the peer support as well, hopefully it will all help. Jump onto the next slide, Tom, please. So just talk about the flexibility of the space. Lauren touched on it before. So you can see what you saw earlier was that empty space is now beginning to get tables and chairs in there. We've also got a stage. So it's about 5 meters wide and a couple of meters deep, I think, something like that. It is properly weighted and everything. So, because I checked, I said, oh, could you get maybe a 4-piece band with a full drum kit and PA? Yes, apparently you can. So that is the hope that, again, will encourage performers, speakers, poetry reading, presentations, anything like that, just to use the facility differently. So it's a coastal activities centre, but we don't want people to think of it as just water sports or walking or cycling. It makes absolute sense to open it to all sorts of groups.
So that area with the stage, Jan, which I think is that the picture with the yellow and the blue chairs that I can see on my screen at the moment.
Yeah.
What's the capacity of that space?
So the space itself for when it's laid out like that is about 35 covers. Okay. And the mezzanine level above is about 30 covers. And then there's the terrace outside, which will accommodate probably just under about 20 people. And there's huge bifold doors, absolutely massive, and they open right out onto the harbour side. Most amazing views. The flexible space with the tables removed, we're not sure yet because it hasn't had the full fire assessment and building assessment and everything. That will come out of that. So we're just waiting for confirmation of that. I mean, first and foremost, that the cafe itself is meant to drive the commercial side to be sustainable. So without spending a lot of time going into the history, the original plan for the Edge was for it to be youth hostel, working with Youth Hostel Association. And then COVID happened, there were lots of issues and everybody's priorities changed, not least YHA's. And the Harbour Commissioners were then left literally holding the baby. So they tried to get somebody else in. It was really difficult times to do it. So there was a lot of back and forth around what the model could then be. So they had to do a complete shift and make it a commercial and a community model. And then the plan was get a commercial operator in to make it sustainable, to wash its own face. It cannot cost the Harbour Commissioners. We're a trust port, we're a non-profit. You know, we can't afford to put money into the Edge, but the commercial will help us have everything there for the community and to support the community activities themselves. And we are funded by Sellafield Limited from the SIX Social Impact Multiplier Programme and from Coastal Communities Fund as well. And it's important to us to really get that community value out of that building. So part of Lauren's role, she has some money for the first year of activities to be subsidised. So we can work with groups that couldn't normally afford to use those kind of facilities. We can work with external organisations to put activities on. Like water sports, like sailing training, like paddle boarding, wild swimming, cycling, walking, art workshops, yoga sessions, things like that. We've got meeting room for about 12 people. So it's all about getting different people in. There's also an amazing slipway as well. So if you jump to the next slide, please, Tom. And a lot of everything that's been done has been predominantly Cumbrian or north of England as much as we can. Very conscious about that circular economy, about the socio-economics. Osprey are a really good local employer. They use local suppliers. The fit out has been predominantly local, and if not, at least in Cumbria. And we will continue to do so as much as we possibly can. And it's really important to us to work with arts and culture organisations within Cumbria to use this building in a different way. So if you jump onto the next slide and Lauren will finish off.
Yeah, so my role at the moment as well is I'm sort of getting ideas from the local community or ideas from anybody really be interested in using the space to see how they want it to be used, and then trying to get sort of promotion of the venue through like targeted advertising, social media, and just word of mouth advocacy as well, which I'm hoping is where students will be really good, and children from schools will be brilliant, because if they come and visit, then the first thing they'll do is go home and talk about it straight away. But obviously, if we can connect with local talent as well and regional initiatives, just to help foster a vibrant programme of events throughout the year, that would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then we've got Lauren's and my contact details on the next slide. So if anybody wants to get in touch, please do liaise with us. Lauren's literally a few weeks in post. So apologies if she hasn't been in touch with you directly yet. She is working her way through. But if you're interested to know about opportunities, so just to clarify, Lauren's role is very much about being the kind of the middle person to link the commercial with the community. So Osprey themselves will deliver the hospitality side, they'll deliver the catering for the residents, they'll deliver catering for visitors, and they will make sure that the hotel rooms are there and we've got hopefully people in them all the time. Lauren will then link with the community group, see who wants to use it, how they want to use it, and make sure that Osprey are aware when people are coming in, because Osprey will ultimately manage that building. They'll essentially be our tenants. But it won't be down to them to determine how the changing rooms are being used, how the drying rooms are being used. That's very much about us working with yourselves and others, and it will evolve. It's a brand new thing. We've never had it before. It's a learning curve. None of us are specialists in this. And somebody said to me the other week, what kind of groups are you hoping to have in? I said, literally anything. You help us shape what that is going to be for the future. It has to be sustainable. There's, around £5 million of public funding gone into this. It's got to be successful. We need it. The area needs it. It's all part of the investment and the developments that are happening around in Whitehaven. And we truly believe Whitehaven is an amazing place, up and coming. There's a lot of support for it. Further investment and further development breeds further investment and further development. It creates more local jobs. It then attracts more visitors that they then spend in the local economy. Then that allows further businesses to open because the footfall is there, and so on and so forth, and the wheel continues. And that's ultimately why we're doing it, and that's what its purpose is.
When does it open?
So hopefully round about early summer holidays. So we had very much a plan. The whole building itself was hit with all sorts of issues from 2019 onwards. So it's been very staggered. It's been very fluid for a long time. It paused for a couple of years because of COVID. There were all sorts of issues. So we've got very used to saying one thing and then it not happening. So we've kept it finally quite loose. Around about early summer holidays, it's really dependent on the community launches and the soft launches and the community taster sessions. So once we start having those, we hope there won't be teething troubles. We hope there won't be snaggings. But if there are, then we may have to sort those out. But we're aiming for early summer holidays as best we can.
Okay. Anyone got any questions? Stick your hand up. Jen says the edge is looking fantastic. Really exciting development. Well done, Whitehaven Harbour commissioners, for getting a really challenging project over the line. Looking forward to connecting with Lauren on programming.
Brilliant.
Kate asks, have the Whitehaven Blue Tits Wild Swimming Group been in contact? They would
never even heard of them. That's amazing.
Massively boost their membership. It would also help encourage mental health swims. So that's the Whitehaven Blue Tits Wild Swimming Group. I'm sure that's men and women who are part of that. One to look out for. What's just final one for me, and then we're going to move on. If anyone else has got any questions, though, put your hand up. How's the design of the building gone down in the local community?
Very much Marmite. I honestly feel it should be sponsored by Marmite. People have loved or hated it. I don't go anywhere publicly without being grabbed about either the discoloured water, we'll not mention that on this call, or the edge. But honestly, since we've started showing inside, and particularly that video I did the other week, we've seen a definite sway of opinion now. There's a lot more people that are starting to support it. And what we were saying is, even if ultimately you don't like the design, you don't feel it's right for you, just look at what's inside. Don't judge a book by its cover. Look at what it's meant to deliver. Look at what it's bringing to the community. And it's going to be an amazing facility, and our facility. WHC may own it, but ultimately it's there for all of us on this call and everybody else. And also you think, well, apparently, and I didn't realise this, but when the beacon went up, there was a huge outcry, which I think is unbelievable, because the Beacon is an amazing building. And the other thing is as well, when you look back at the Georgian buildings in Whitehaven, every building of its era, the first building is always not in keeping with the area, because there always has to be a first somewhere. So, kind of go with it,
Okay.
stick with it, and see what it ends up as.
I think it looks great, and I think Anne likes it as well, and I think Kate likes it too, and the other Kate too. So you've got some fans on this call. Well done. Looking forward to that sort of fresh new smell that you get when you get into a new building, sticking around for a bit. And I really hope that we can do something there as a network, perhaps before the end of the year, just some sort of gathering, so we can all have a good look around as well. Claire likes it too. Thank you, Deanne.
Amazing.
Thank you, Laura. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
With everything. Right, I'm just going to share a lovely image now that I found of Chris Dennett. And I'm going to ask Chris Dennett to say what on earth is going on in this picture.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's me riding the Dave Myers memory bike. So this is a replica Harley Davidson that's made out of wood. We haven't managed to find out who made it originally, but someone made this bike. We found out on eBay, as all the best things are, and painted it slightly different colours than the originals. So the whole idea is we've made a memory booth for the Dock Museum. And the idea is people will come and sit on the bike, and they sit in front of a green screen. It will be as if they're in the convoy, driving and riding into Barrow, and they can record their memories about Dave, or about Dave Day, or about Lily, or about anything to do with sort of Dave Day. And those, we're going to, I've forgotten where we're going now. We're going to Roe Island Boat Club, Holiday Inn, and Barrow Town Hall. I've stuck it in the chat earlier. And yeah, people can come along and record their memories, and it's going to go into the Dock Museum as part of an exhibition all about Dave Myers, just before Dave Day. So that will be on the 20th of June. And then, yeah, we'll have Dave Day too, with all the bikes.
It's fantastic, Chris.
I've got very into Hawaiian shirts now. So bring a bit of brightness.
Perhaps we also have a Hawaiian shirt Friday call to celebrate Dave Day 2. Which you could lead on, Chris. In fact, we're going to talk about Dave Day 2 on the 13th of June. So that's in 2 weeks' time, I think. Yeah. With Charlotte, isn't it, who helps run the Dock Museum, and someone from the organisers as well, just to talk about how Dave Day 2 is going to take over Barrow in the middle of June. So that's just a fabulous picture you put on social media this week, Chris. And I know you talked about the motorbike before, but I think it suits you well, and you suit it well. And what a great way of getting people to think about their memories of Dave and other things as well. So massively, beautifully creative. So thank you for sharing that. I just dumped that on you this morning. You did very well. Thank you. Right, we're now going to hear a little clip of a podcast interview that I did with, as I said earlier, Andy Smith, chap who runs Kendall Callings. This was part of LA23 business networking meetup at Eden Arts at the old fire station in Penrith last week. And I was lucky enough to be asked to do a chat with Andy on stage, about 60 people there. Some of you may have been there, can't remember. And this has become the next edition of the Behind the Scenery podcast, episode 33. And this was just a little bit where I asked him about a story that I'd heard about him not knowing who Blondie were. So let's just play the clip. You talked about agents and dealing with agents. There's a story about 2011, I think it was, when Blondie was suggested to you as a headlining band. And you had a reaction to that.
Oh,
Tell us about that.
I told you not to bring that up. Oh God, this is embarrassing. Yeah, so one night I got a phone call from an agent called Steve Strange. He is an absolutely fantastic agent. He had a huge roster of artists. Most agents might look after 10 or 20. He looked after about 100. And you've heard of their names. It was everybody from Echo and the Bunnymen, Coldplay, Eminem, Queens of the Stone Age. It was a huge roster. And he called up and said, I've got an act for you. Because we'd had the Coral the year before off him. And he said, right, we've got an act touring. I think they'd be perfect for you. Blondie. We want you to book Blondie. And that's how they do it. Sometimes they just tell you who's playing. This is what we want you to do. And I said, oh gosh, yeah, sure, yeah. Because you never say no to an agent initially. Maybe that's why I did booking well. And I said, how much? Because I'd never heard of Blondie. That's the problem.
How old are you, Andy?
Old enough to know better. And I said, yeah, sure, yeah, we'll find a slot for Blondie. And he said, oh yeah, how much? He said, oh, £30,000. I said, oh, what? This isn't some emerging artist. So I just did a quick Google. Thank God the internet exists, and discovered that I know all the songs. I just didn't know they were from one person or one act, and I didn't know that act was called Blondie. So I managed to recover. I don't think he noticed, and we had Blondie. Thank God. That was amazing. We were probably on the phone for about 4 or 5 hours that night. He was just talking about absolutely everything. But yeah, he was a wonderful chap. Sadly, he's not around anymore. Very sadly.
A couple more anecdotes, and then we'll get on to some more. We'll just pause it there. So it was a lovely chat, and there's more of that to come on the podcast if you fancy listening to it. There he is. He's a very unassuming chap. Great venue to have the meeting in, and that's Ernest, his lovely dog. But a very unassuming chap. Started picking bands when he was a teenager in a village hall in Arnside, which is where Andy lives. And one of the things he's made, Kennel Calling, it's the third biggest town in Cumbria for the 4 days that it exists, because it's 40,000 people, budget of £9 million, if I remember correctly. So quite a story to tell, and if you fancy listening to that, it's on the podcast, and also a couple of pieces about him in Curated Cumbria. Can you see how we're liaising and networking, working together and collaborating and all this stuff? It's fantastic. Right, we're going to finish the call this morning then with a little clip of, we were talking earlier, for those of you that weren't here at the start of the call, we were talking earlier a little bit about Cockermouth Live, which is coming up the first weekend of July. And part of Cockermouth Live is the one performance that the Cockermouth Community Orchestra give every year, 50-strong community orchestra. And this year is a very special piece of music that they're playing at the concert. And I'll just hand over to Kate Parry, brackets, first bassoon, close brackets, to explain this clip.
Well, I'll play you it if I can. It might go horribly wrong. But yeah, the finale to Cockermouth Live is always a performance by the Cockermouth Community Orchestra, led by Dr. Philip Wood, who is a wonderful, wonderful composer and conductor who lives locally. And this year we're playing something called Malcolm Arnold's Grand Overture. So I took the opportunity to speak to one of the soloists and also the conductor, and I put this on Facebook to spread the word about the concert. So I will now try and share it, fingers crossed, but talk amongst yourselves just in case. How do I share with sound?
You tick the box that says sound.
There isn't a box that says sound. Here we go. There really isn't a box that says sound. Oh, God. Let's see. Not giving me that option, so I'm just going to try. Right, good evening. I am here at the Cockermouth International Reformed Church. Very exciting occasion in preparation for this year's Cockermouth Live Festival. Phil, tell us about the piece of music that we are rehearsing this evening.
It was written by Malcolm Arnold in 1956 for the first Hoffman Festival concerts,
right?
Which are subsequent ones. And he wanted a really grand gesture, one that went on a bit too long. Okay. But Hoffman really got the better of Malcolm, and he took him down to Hoover's place in Regent Street, and he took a tuning fork with him. And he found that the vacuum cleaners were in B flat and that the floor polishing was in G.
Why does he need vacuum cleaners and floor polishers?
Because these are the soloists. These are the big soloists. I don't mean big. I mean, as you can see, we have Henry here.
Hello, Henry.
Hello, Henry.
What is the title of the piece of music that we're performing?
It is a grand overture.
Okay, fantastic. And we are very privileged this evening to have one of our soloists with us. This is Toby Gaffney. And this evening you'll be playing what, Toby?
I shall be playing, well, if one may say one plays, I will be playing Henry.
And how long have you been playing the vacuum cleaner?
Well, this will be my first official one, but I've been using vacuum cleaners for many years.
So you must have to put in the hours to get this good then, to be a soloist.
Yes, that's what my drum. my own rules. Yes.
Great. And have you ever played with a full orchestra before on your action film?
Oh, I've only been in this with their first, so I'm very much.
Great. Fantastic. Well, let's see how it goes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And back to the studio.
Oh, I have no idea what that is.
Sensational piece of creativity.
In my brief foray into journalism, which ends there.
You can dip out again a bit now, yeah? Okay. All right. So anyway, that's something to look forward to if you fancy coming to see that beautiful piece of music with vacuum cleaners hanging off the end.
And floor polisher.
Floor polisher, Sunday night at Cockermouth Live. Next week, from the sublime to the ridiculous, Darren Henley, the Chief Executive of Arts Council England, is going to be on this call. This is the book that he's written. I'll just unblur my camera so you can see it. It's called The Arts Dividend. Obviously, lots of noise about the Arts Council going on at the moment. We've got the public sector spending announcements in June, and Arts Council England is probably going to, to see how it comes out of all of that. Gets about £1 billion a year of taxpayers' money at the moment, dishes it out across England. So this is a book he wrote about 10 years ago, which is updated. Lots of examples, quite a bit about Cumbria in here as well on his visits around Cumbria. So chance for him to talk about that and talk to us, and obviously a chance for you to ask him any questions that you'd like to as well. So I lined this up a few months ago, and he's coming to the Wicket, hopefully for the full hour. We'll see how that all pans out. So if you fancy coming to that call, that's next week, Friday, 9:30, June the 6th. When we'll have Darren Henley, pretty influential fellow, been there about 10 years, I think. Some people on this call will know the Arts Council better than myself, but in my small dealings with the Arts Council, I found to be a decent organisation doing an almost impossible job. But it's always good to hold the man at the top in charge to account for what his actions are for spending all that money and having that strategy. Thank you very much to Nick and to Kate and to Deanne and to Lauren. For Amy, of course, for driving the wheels of the bus in the background. Lovely to see you all. Hope you have a nice weekend. The sunshine is here. The festivals are beginning. Have a great week and catch you again in a week's time. Darren Henley will be here too. Cheerio.